The courtroom was thick with the scent of old wood and stale coffee, kind of place where whispers could carry farther than shouts. Its sunlight slanted in through the tall windows, falling across the polished floor in pale stripes, as if the day outside had no idea of the storm brewing inside. She sat at the defense table, her hands folded neatly, her posture straight, her eyes calm. From the outside, she looked like any other woman dragged into a fight she didn't ask for. But inside her there was something the judge could never see. Not yet. The judge leaned forward, his voice dripping with condescension. "Don't look like someone who could handle real pressure," he said. "You're fragile, weak." A few people in the gallery exchanged quick glances, some shaking their heads, others smirking quietly, as though the man in the robe had just summed up the case before it even began. She didn't flinch, not when he looked down on her, not when he tried to reduce her to nothing more than an easy target. If anything, the insult seemed to settle into her bones like a weight she had carried many times before. He didn't know. He didn't know the nights she had spent crouched in the dirt, her back pressed against cold steel, her hands steady as the world exploded around her. He didn't know the sound of orders whispered in the dark, the quiet urgency of life or death decisions. He didn't know that she had stared into the eyes of men twice his size, men who thought they could intimidate her, only to watch them fold under the weight of their own fear. She had learned long ago that strength isn't loud. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it waits. She studied him for a moment, then leaned slightly forward. Her lips barely moved, but the words she spoke sliced through the courtroom air like a blade. Just 2 words. A call sign. One he thought was buried deep in his past. One he never expected to hear again, least of all in a courtroom from someone like her. The color drained from his face instantly. Now the confident smirk that had clung to him for years vanished as his eyes locked on hers, searching for something, some sign this was a coincidence. But he knew it wasn't. The room seemed to still. People in the gallery noticed the change, whispering quietly, wondering what had just happened. The court reporters' fingers froze for a fraction of a second before resuming their steady tap. Even the bailiff looked between them, sensing the sudden shift in the air. The judge tried to recover, to straighten his posture and mask his reaction, but it was too late. His hands trembled ever so slightly as he gripped the edge of the bench. That call sign had not been spoken in public for over 20 years. It belonged to a night that was supposed to stay buried forever, a mission so classified that even the whispers about it could end careers. She knew she had been there. And if she was here now, speaking it aloud, meant she had the proof, the memory, and the will to use it. He cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the room. "That's irrelevant to these proceedings," he said, but his voice had lost its edge. She didn't argue, she didn't need to. The damage had already been done. People could see the sweat beginning to form on his forehead, the way his eyes darted toward the door as if he wanted to be anywhere but here. Her mind flashed back to that night 2 decades ago, deep in hostile territory. He wasn't wearing a robe then. He was wearing the same uniform she was, but he wasn't there for honor or service. He was there for himself. She had seen him make a choice that had cost lives, a choice he had buried under paperwork and politics. And she had stayed silent until now. Every second he sat there pretending to be untouchable. She could see the cracks spreading in his armor, tried to move the hearing forward, but the tension in the room was like a held breath. Every person could feel that something bigger than the case at hand was unfolding before their eyes. And he knew it. She didn't rush. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The call sign still hung between them like a ghost neither of them could deny. And as the silence stretched on, his career built on carefully laid lies and hidden truths began to crumble. She had waited for this moment for years, and now she had all the time in the world. His composure shattered further when she reached into her bag and placed a single, weathered envelope on the table in front of her. The edges were frayed. The paper yellowed with age, but the Sealand official military crest was unmistakable. She didn't open it. She didn't have to. He recognized it instantly. It was the after-action report from that night, the one he thought had been destroyed. His knuckles whitened as he gripped the bench, the weight of every eye in the courtroom pressing down on him. The quiet in the room was suffocating, a kind of silence that spoke louder than any accusation. For a fleeting second, his gaze darted toward the bailiff, as if to signal for intervention, but the bailiff didn't move. The man in uniform stood, still, his face unreadable, and it was then the judge realized this wasn't just her fight anymore. Word had spread faster than he could control. Some of the people in that room knew exactly what the call sign meant, and they were just waiting for her to speak again. The air was electric, a current running through every person present, as if history itself was holding its breath. She leaned back in her chair, calm, composed, her eyes locked on his with unshakable certainty. "You took something from me that night," she said quietly, her voice steady but carrying an unspoken weight. "From all of us. Die. I'm just here to make sure it never happens again." Her words weren't loud, but they sliced through him sharper than any gavel strike. The gallery remained still, but the shift was undeniable. He was no longer the figure of authority. She was. The balance of power in that room had tipped entirely, and everyone felt it. The judge's hand trembled as he reached for his water, the glass clinking against the wood. His voice cracked as he attempted to move to the next case, but it was futile. This hearing was over, at least for him. In the back of the room, someone quietly stood and walked out, phone in hand, already dialing a number that would set an unstoppable chain of events into motion. His career, his reputation, his carefully guarded secrets, everything was now unraveling. And all it had taken was to whispered words from the one person he had underestimated most.